Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a fascinating part of American history that often gets overlooked. While the modern political landscape in the United States is dominated by the Democratic and Republican parties, it wasn't always this way. In the early days of the nation, numerous political parties rose and fell, each leaving their mark on the country's development. From advocating for a strong central government to fighting for women's suffrage, these parties influenced major changes that still resonate today. Join us as we explore the stories of 10 influential political parties that have disappeared from the U.S. political scene. The Republican and Democratic parties now control most aspects of U.S. politics. It wasn't until 1848 that a third-party candidate took the presidency. It's safe to say that their time doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon, given the emergence of super PACs and the tribal sentiments of many American voters. However, throughout the early years of the United States, a number of parties with disparate ideologies emerged and disappeared based on the political climate and the hottest topics of the day. Even if several parties never attained significant national power or influence, they nevertheless exerted enough political pressure to compel important reforms to the country that are still in effect today. Here we examine the pasts of 10 significant political groups that have vanished. Number 10. The Federalist Party. Alexander Hamilton's dream of a powerful national government for America gave rise to the Federalist Party. Congress was against Hamilton, so he started a campaign to get the people behind him. In addition to penning 81 public writings, he traveled the nation, delivering lectures endorsing his views or criticizing Thomas Jefferson's proposed decentralized union of independent states. Newspapers started referring to Hamilton's supporters as Federalists. By 1791, the northern states provided the majority of the party's support. They were more receptive to Hamilton's ideas for a powerful government with a central bank and state debt, because they depended on business and trade for their livelihoods. In the South, where sentiments toward the Union were less strong and state sovereignty was more common, the party did not have as much support. In the 1860s, this dispute would explode into a civil war. The party was adamantly opposed to the French Revolution and in favor of cordial ties with Great Britain, by passing the Constitution, recognizing state debts as a unified national obligation owed by the federal government, and establishing the president's and his administration's powers. The party significantly influenced the contemporary United States. But things soon turned around when the Federalists enacted the Sedition Act in 1798, which forbade newspapers from printing any articles that were unduly critical of public officials. Despite intense rivalry on both sides, Jefferson and his new Democratic-Republican Party barely prevailed in the hard-fought 1800 election. After the catastrophic War of 1812, the Federalists gained control of Congress once more, but they never again had a major impact on U.S. politics. Number 9. The Know-Nothing Party. Ireland, Germany, and other Catholic populations, mostly in Europe, saw a spike in immigration to the United States in the 1830s and 1840s. Concerned about a Catholic takeover of the nation, several Americans expressed anxiety at the development. Charles B. Allen created the Order of the Star-Spangled Banner, a covert organization, in 1849 in retaliation. Its main goal was to fight immigration policy implemented by the government and new immigrants. It was required of members that they be Protestants, Americans by birth, and at least 21 years old. They were forced to respond to questions about the party by claiming they didn't know anything, which led to the group's final nickname. Over the course of the 1850s, the movement gained traction, and by December 1855, 43 congressmen had joined the group. As a sort of protest vote, the 1854 Kansas-Nebraska Act forced pro-slavery Democrats and anti-slavery Republicans to switch from their previous parties to the Know-Nothings. Encouraged by their achievements, the Know-Nothings went public and established the American Party as an official party. But they had already outlived their usefulness. The party entered a presidential candidate in the 1856 election, but by the following year, most of its supporters had deserted. Ultimately, as the Civil War approached and slavery became a bigger problem, Americans lost interest in the threat posed by immigration. The party disbanded by 1860. Number 8. The Democratic-Republican Party. Those who disagreed with the Federalists' proposals for a powerful national government made up the Democratic Republicans, which Thomas Jefferson had founded as the Republican Party in 1792. The Democratic Republicans were fundamentally anti-monarchical and anti-elite. To highlight their support for the French Revolution and hostility to all forms of royal power, they adopted the moniker Republican. They maintained that each state should have the authority to administer its own territory as they saw proper and defended the rights of the impoverished against the excesses of the wealthy. The Democratic Republicans ruled after winning the 1800 election and continued to do so for 20 years. By now, however, they were less of a unified political party with a fixed agenda and more of an alliance of disparate interest groups. After the 1824 election, in which various party members backed 4 distinct presidential candidates, the party finally broke up. The National Republican Party was founded by the winners, who were led by Henry Clay and John Quincy Adams. After losing, Andrew Jackson eliminated the term Republican, and the party evolved into the modern-day Democratic Party. Number 7. The National Republican Party. Following John Quincy Adams' election to the presidency in 1824, supporters of Henry Clay founded the National Republican Party. They had a grand plan to modernize the U.S. educational system and naval school, as well as to construct a national highway connecting Washington to New Orleans. Their idea was to sell land in the West to private buyers in order to create money for the Treasury so that government programs could be pursued without the need for tax increases. The main goal was to connect the country and instill a sense of patriotism in individuals toward the nation instead of their home state by improving and maintaining highways and other links. Both the first passenger train and numerous canals were constructed across the country under President Adams. Democrats led by Andrew Jackson, who claimed that Adams and Clay had conspired to obtain the presidency in a corrupt deal, tarnished his whole term in office. This claim was widely accepted by the populace. As a result, many of his proposals were rejected by Congress, and by the time the National Republicans were defeated in the 1828 election, they had achieved very little and would never again hold political power. When they ran in the 1832 election, they lost badly once more. After the party fell, many of its members went on to found the Whig Party. Number 6. The Anti-Masonic Party. William Morgan, a former Freemason, vanished in 1826. A few months prior to his disappearance, he openly expressed his distaste for the Freemasons and declared his intention to write a book that would reveal all of their secrets. After being taken into custody, he quickly disappeared. Since then, there has been no sign of him. Many Americans thought that the Freemasons had killed him in order to keep their secrets from being discovered. A number of journalists and other anti-Freemasons individuals got together in 1828 to form the Anti-Masonic Party. They said that the Freemasons were a threat to individual liberty and violated American Republican values as a secret society, particularly since many national Republican government officials were also Freemasons. In 1828, they had surprising success and won members in Congress, making history as the first third party to do so. They selected William Wirt as their presidential candidate and convened the first ever presidential nominating convention in U.S. history prior to the 1832 election. Since then, the convention system has been employed by all other major parties to pick their presidential candidates. After their convention failed to produce a nominee for the 1836 election, the anti-Masons disintegrated. Soon after, a large number of its former members joined the Whig Party, which opposed Jackson. Number 5. The Whig Party. President Andrew Jackson caused rifts in society. He dissolved the Bank of the United States, drove Native Americans off their lands, and concocted stories to malign his political rivals throughout his 2 terms in office. In addition, he was the first president to be targeted for assassination. His opponents attempted to perpetuate that image by banding together and establishing the Whig Party, which was named after the well-known Whig Party in Great Britain that opposed the monarch's authority. Many accused him of misusing his power and ruled like a dictator, earning him the moniker King Andrew. The party, which had 4 presidents in its 30 years of existence, evolved into more than just a group of people who despised Jackson. A large portion of the party's support came from the U.S. middle class and urban population, which is expanding. They backed the party's pro-industrialization and pro-business policies, which significantly raised the wealth of the country. Their adherence to the rule of law and rejection of excessive presidential power drew in other supporters. In the end, slavery, the largest issue to ever dominate U.S. politics, overthrew the Whigs. Conscience Whigs favored the Union, while certain members of the party, known as Cotton Whigs, favored the Southern states. Many conscientious Whigs, including Abraham Lincoln, joined the newly established Republican Party when the Civil War broke out, while their opponents joined the Democratic Party. Number 4. The Free Soil Party. The 1848 battle against slavery gave rise to the short-lived but highly powerful Free Soil Party. After their founding, they gained popularity fast and put Martin Van Buren, the outgoing president, forward for re-election. They were a party with a singular goal: to stop slavery from spreading to the recently established Western states. The Republican Party then adopted its slogan, "Free Soil, Free Speech, Free Labor, Free Men," after they firmly opposed slavery, partly due to Free Soil's popularity. Despite never gaining absolute control, they garnered 300,000 votes in the 1848 election, making them a significant third party. More significantly, they prevented the Democrats who supported slavery from winning enough votes to support the Whig nominee for president and stop slavery from spreading to the West. They enacted legislation prohibiting discrimination against free African Americans and gained local authority in a few northern states. Their most significant contribution, though, was the formation of the current Republican Party in August 1854 through their partnership with parts of the Whig Party. Number 3. The Readjuster Party. Between 1879 and 1885, the Readjuster Party, the most prosperous political organization you've never heard of, was a regional party that flourished in Virginia. Originally formed as a single-issue party with the primary objective of resolving Virginia's debt issues, it rose to prominence in the state's politics before being destroyed by a focused Democratic campaign. A large number of its members defected to become Republicans. By the end of the Civil War, Virginia's debt had risen to $45 million, to the point where the state was having difficulty raising funds. The choice to issue bonds in 1871, with the intention of boosting the state's economy, worsened the situation. Bondholders were to get 6% annual interest. The state's annual revenue was more than half consumed by interest payments on the bonds. A few years later, in 1878, the General Assembly of Virginia approved a bill to fund the public school system by collecting more cash than coupons. The Readjuster Party was formed with the goal of lowering bond interest rates after the state governor vetoed the bill. The party's Reconstruction-era strategy of inviting both black and white guests contributed significantly to its rapid rise in popularity. In 1879, it secured majorities in both houses, and by 1881, it had also prevailed in the gubernatorial election. They had lowered the bond interest payments to 3% in 1882. Abundant with cash, the newly formed government lowered taxes on small enterprises, farms, and other sectors of the population that had previously borne the brunt of the repayment of debt. They doubled public school funding while raising taxes on large enterprises. By 1883, they had completely redesigned the university system and had eliminated the state's dire deficit, leaving a surplus. The most astounding thing is that they succeeded in passing numerous laws that improved African Americans' rights. They eliminated the whipping post as a means of punishment for African Americans, established the first institution devoted to educating black teachers, and eliminated the poll tax as a requirement for casting a ballot. This gave thousands of black Americans the right to vote. As a result of these efforts, the town of Danville elected a council with a majority of black residents, which paved the way for the creation of an integrated multiracial police department. Their progressive views ultimately proved to be fatal to them. The Democrats claim that the Readjusters were supporting African American racial supremacy, appealed to the racial resentment felt by a large number of the state's white sharecroppers and landowners. The message was effective, as the Democrats reclaimed control of all statewide positions in 1885. The Republicans acquired what remained of the Readjuster Party. Number 2. The Silver Party. The U.S. economy crashed in 1873. The U.S. monetary policy controversy that had been raging since the end of the Civil War was further fueled by this disaster, which came to be known as the Panic of 1873. Numerous citizens nationwide, encompassing both Democrats and Republicans, endorsed the rather novel concept of the gold standard. They thought it would increase public confidence in the currency. Some people continued to have faith in the novel bills that the government had printed in order to generate funds for the war. These individuals become Greenback Party members. The Free Silver movement, which received backing from a large number of individuals in the Midwest and Western regions, was the primary force opposing the gold standard, however. These people supported a bimetal system with two primary sets of coins, where the worth of the currency was measured against both gold and silver. Because Nevada generated a large portion of the nation's silver and a large number of individuals in the new state were employed in the silver industry, the state was an ideal location for the Free Silver movement. Between 1892 and 1911, Silver Party politicians dominated Nevada politics and won concessions from the government on behalf of the larger movement. The government even agreed to purchase large quantities of silver from the manufacturers at one point. The free silver issue was adopted by the Democratic Party for the 1896 election as a result of public support and Silver Party lobbying. But their impact was short-lived, as the Republican Party's passage of the Gold Standard Act in 1900 put an end to hopes for a bimetal currency. In Nevada, voters supported the Silver Party for 10 more years, during which time the movement for free silver had come to be seen as a way to prioritize the interests of the underprivileged over those of the wealthy. Even after the movement as a whole disintegrated, the Silver Party's support for this idea remained. However, by 1902, the party was in disarray and had joined forces with the Democratic Party. 1911 saw its formal dissolution. Number 1. The National Woman's Party. Originally known as the Congressional Union for Woman Suffrage, Alice Paul and Lucy Burns founded the National Woman's Party in 1913. The two had visited Britain as young people. Paul first became acquainted with Emmeline Pankhurst and the suffragettes while she was a student. The suffragettes gained notoriety for taking drastic actions to secure equal voting rights for women, including turning to crimes like burning. Paul and Burns decided to take similar steps in 1916 in an attempt to win over more voters, so they renamed their party. This reached a boiling point in January 1917 when National Woman's Party members started picketing the White House. following a meeting with President Woodrow Wilson. Throughout World War I, the National Woman's Party persisted in protesting, in contrast to their British partners, which weakened their popular support. However, their strategies worked. In addition to their widely reported picketing and marches, the suffragist magazine they published played a significant role in raising awareness of their cause and the harsh tactics the police occasionally employed against them. President Wilson personally addressed Congress in 1919, pleading with them to ratify the 19th Amendment. The women's picket of the White House came to an end in 1920 after the measure was passed. Following this, they focused on attempting to pass the Equal Rights Bill. Although they were unsuccessful in achieving this goal, the measure remains unpassed to this day. They were successful in advancing other equal rights, like the Equal Pay Act of 1963. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these parties do you think had the most significant impact? And are there any other historical parties you'd like us to cover? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest videos. Until next time, keep exploring history, stay curious, and remember that every story shapes the world we live in today. See you in the next video.